Shalom Aleichem. Mishnah Yomi today is learning Sanhedrin chapter 9, Mishnayot 4 and 5. Yesterday we just covered which death penalties, which capital punishments are the most severe. And according to the sages, the order from worst to least bad was skila, sreifa, chereg, chenek. Now Mishnah Dalit picks up mi shenit chayev b'shtei mitot beitin. What if somebody did two different crimes that both carry an execution, but maybe one is skila and one is chenek? So what do we try him for? Nidon bechamura. He's tried for the more severe crime, the skila level crime, even if he did the chenek crime first. Over aveira shenit chayev shtei mito. But what if he's doing one act of sin that carries two different punishments? The Rav Bartner brings an example. He's living with his mother-in-law, God forbid. Now, the mother-in-law herself is sreifa, burning, but if she's also married at the time, that's chenek, like for any married woman. So there's two different capital punishments for one crime. Here too, nidon bechamora. We're going to try him and execute him with the more severe one. This case would be sreifa in this example. Rabbi Yossi omer nidon bezika rishona sheba alav. Rabbi Yossi disagrees. He says he will actually be executed through the method of death that was first applicable in his specific situation. So in our example, if the mother-in-law was already married at the time that the aggressor, that the criminal, married the daughter, then she was already usher to the criminal with chenek, so he would be tried for chenek. However, if the mother-in-law was single, she was a widow at the time of the marriage, then she becomes the mother-in-law, which is judged through sreifa, and then she later got remarried before the crime took place, so she'd be judged with sreifa. Now, Mishnah Hay brings some very surprising cases where someone is allowed or indirectly caused to die by the court. Now, the Kahati brings from the Rashi and the Gemara, these aren't made-up rabbinical innovations. These are halacha l'Moshe Messinai. They have allusions, they have support for them in the scripture. But as we'll see, they are quite innovative. Mishaloka vishana. Someone is doing a sin that carries a malchus punishment. In the Gemara, they say not just malchus, it's karet. He's doing sins that carry kritut, the punishment of excision, which, if somebody is liable to karet and they go to Beit Din, the Beit Din will give them malchut, will give them lashes. Vishana, and he keeps doing it over and over. As an aside, there's some people who, Erev Yom Kippur, Erev Rosh Hashanah, they go to shul and they have the rabbi or the gabbai hit them with a belt as a remembrance, as a zecher, as sort of a symbolic malkut. So in case they did something malkut worthy or karet worthy, they'll be off the hook. The idea being that being punished and feeling pain and of course having regret and doing tshuva in this lifetime will spare them the punishment of karet in the next world. Anyway, this fellow in Mishnah Hay, Mishalaka Vishana, he's been whipped, he's been chastised by the court, and then again he's been whipped by the court, and he continues to do these very severe sins. Beit Din machnisin oto the kippah. They will lock him up, they'll put him in jail, and then not just will they lock him up in jail, machilin oto sorin, they'll feed him a lot of barley. Ad shekreiso mit bakat, until his kishkas, his stomach or intestines, have a rupture, which he'll die from. In the Gemara, they explain they withhold food and give him minimal water, so his stomach shrinks, and then they give him a lot of barley, maybe a very hearty cholent, and he basically brings his punishment on himself by causing some sort of intestinal rupture or blockage, which will ultimately kill him. The Mishnah brings a similar case, a harig nefesh shelo be'edim, somebody committed murder. We absolutely know they committed the murder, but they didn't have Adim there. In the Gemara, they also explain it could be that there's Adim, but the Adim were independent. Maybe the guy was in the middle of the street and the Adim saw them from opposite sides of the street, but the witnesses did not see each other. Now, in order for witnesses to testify together as an official set of two witnesses, the witnesses have to see each other at the time of the crime and be aware of one another. So it might be there are two separate witnesses to this murder, but they cannot be combined for technical reasons. So technically, we can't execute this murderer, but we know absolutely that he did the crime. Again, machnisnito, the kippah will put him into solitary confinement. Machlinoto lechem tzor mayim lochotz. and they'll feed him very minimal bread and just a little bit of water, again, so his intestines shrink, and then they'll give him, his last meal. Maybe they'll offer, we'll cook whatever you want, or maybe they'll give him a big hearty cholent with the barley, and again, he will overeat and bring his death punishment upon himself. The Kahati and the other Mefarshim explain this punishment, which again, it's halacha l'Moshe Sinai, it's not something made up later in generations. It's really for the protection of society, where we know somebody is absolutely a criminal, is absolutely a bad influence on society and a danger, but we don't have a way to officially execute them through the Arba Mitot Beitin, Skilus Reifach Harakenik, so we have to go through some other channel of indirectly allowing them to kill themselves in isolation before they harm other people. Yishar kochachem, tizku lemitzvot.